Alright guys, welcome to chapter 2. I'm going to go ahead and frame the chapter for you so that you know the grammar topics that we're going to be talking about. First off, we're going to be talking about AR verbs and their conjugations. These AR verbs and learning how to conjugate are going to be able to tell us what someone is doing currently, right now, maybe what they're doing in a couple of days, or what they routinely do every single day. We'll talk more about that in just a moment. Number 2, we're going to be talking about the verb gustar, which is another AR verb, but we're not going to conjugate it the same. I'll show you specifically the conjugation for gustar that we're going to use in a future video. And we learn some pronouns with gustar that help us create our phrases and our sentences. And the third piece is the adjective and noun agreement. Some of you may already know that in Spanish, more often than not, the adjective follows the word that it describes. So in English we're used to saying green car. In Spanish what you would see looks like car green. We'll explain that in more detail when that video is posted. But for right now, let's focus on those AR verbs. Alright? So you might be saying, what do you mean AR verbs? Well, AR verbs are any of our verbs that end in the letters AR. We have several of them, many of them that you'll see. Alright? So right here, this is the key piece that we're focusing on. And that right there is called the infinitive ending. The infinitive ending. So what that means is that it's not conjugated. We haven't given it a subject yet. Anytime you see a verb that ends in AR, later you're going to see ER and IR. Those are infinitive verbs. So the infinitive is basically the to form of the verb. So let's look at hablar. You already know what that means, to speak. Tomar, to take. Or to drink, depending on your country and the beverage. Sacar could be to take as well, or to remove. Okay? So those are a few of your AR verbs as introductions. But remember, whenever we're conjugating, we have a process. First, we'll start out with the verb. Let's use hablar, because it's a really common verb. Hablar. And do you remember this step B? Do you remember what that second part was? What was it that we have to run our verbs through in order to get the conjugated verb on the other side? Do you remember? Yeah, absolutely. It's that filter, if you want to call it that. Remember this little template? Remember that template? There are all of our subject pronouns. So you're never going to get away from this thing. So I hope you are committing this to memory. And whenever you see UD, UD, that is the abbreviation for usted. I'm just going to go ahead and fill these out so that you have them for reference. And if you see UDS, that's ustedes. Alright? So there's step B, and what colors have we worked with so far? Let's use blue over here on the end. And that leads us to the finished conjugated verb. So after we start with our infinitive, we run it through the subject pronouns, we come out the other side with a conjugated verb. And here are the forms of hablar. Some of you may recognize these verbs. You may have heard these verbs before. Everybody can say, no hablo español, I don't speak Spanish, not yet anyway, after a few classes you will. But we know this word, we're familiar with this verb. So you're looking at it and you might be saying to yourself, wow, what in the world? Where did this come from? Where did that come from? Where did that come from? What is that? What is that? Well, those are our conjugated endings. AR verbs share the same conjugated endings. They share the same conjugated endings. The yo form is o. The tú form is as. The él, ella, usted form a. Nosotros, hemos. Y ellos, ellas, ustedes, han. So what was our process? What was our process in making the conjugated verb? Well, I'm going to show you. Hopefully you're taking the time to go ahead and write this down. Hope you have the notes, because I'm getting ready to erase it all and show you how we wound up there. I'm going to erase the top part anyway. Okay, that'll work. All right. So how did we get from hablar to hablo, to hablas? Well, we get rid of the infinitive ending, because an infinitive verb and a conjugated verb are two different things. We're trying to make that distinction. We have to get rid of the infinitive ending, and that leaves us with our stem. It leaves us with the stem of our verb. From that point, it depends on who we're talking about. If I'm talking about myself, no hablo español, I don't speak Spanish, hablo. If I'm asking you the question, you there in the camera looking at me on the computer, I'm going to ask you the question, ¿Tú hablas español? ¿Tú hablas español? What if you're talking about your friend? Hey, my friend does. Mi amigo habla español. Mi amigo habla español. Nosotros, todos, tú, yo, él, ella, nosotros hablamos español. Ustedes, you all, everyone watching me on the camera, ustedes hablan español. So that's how we go from an infinitive verb to the conjugated verb form. We have to begin with the infinitive, use our subject pronouns, and then it gets us over here to this final destination there. All right. So those are your AR verbs. That's how you conjugate. Hope this video has proven beneficial for you. If you have questions, please email me and let me know. All right. Take care.